WandaVision episode 5. Easily the best episode of WandaVision yet. A lot of stuff happened. Before I even clicked the episode, I saw on Disney Plus it was 42 minutes. And I know it's like 2 hours of credits, right, for this damn thing, but still, 42 minutes is still very long. And obviously, without the credits, it's still long. It's still a longer episode. And there's a reason why. A lot of things happened in this episode. A lot of things were revealed. There was a lot of revelations and teases for the future. And kind of the series itself was kind of somewhat explained here. Now, one thing I want to talk about here first and foremost is the very beginning of the episode. This episode was structured different. I should actually get that out of the way. Because part of it was in the real world with Sword and with Monica Rambeau and all them. And the other part was in the fictional world that Wanda created, WandaVision. And I do love how it goes from 4:3 aspect ratio to 16:9. It was doing that in previous episodes too, like very subtly. I didn't even notice the first time I saw them, and then I went and when I rewatched them, I was like, oh, they changed the aspect ratio. That was cool, because old shows were not in widescreen. But this one was great because the opening parody that they were teasing, now we've gone into the 80s. Now we've got shows like Growing Pains. We've got shows like Family Ties. We've got shows like Full House that they're parodying. And it was awesome because in the intro, like the WandaVision intro, they really, really went hammy when it comes to these shows. And I gotta say that I'm happy because even though as a kid, I knew about I Love Lucy, Bewitched, I Dream of Jeannie. Like I had seen a little bit of those shows on Nick at Night, but I really didn't watch a lot of them. However, when it comes to Growing Pains and Full House, I watched those shows like a lot. Like I can't say I've seen every episode back then, but when TGIF was on and that era, the 80s, and really the 90s, not really the 80s, it was mostly the 90s, but it was the late 80s, a much more innocent time. And that's what we got here in this episode. But on top of that, we had basically the story here is that Wanda is creating, this is what we revealed, she's creating this pocket universe. She's doing it out of grief because of what happened to Vision in Infinity War, which we all kind of knew. But what we found out here is that she actually broke into a facility and stole the body of Vision. And so the Vision in her world is an actual physical Vision, but she sort of recreated him with her powers. And we find out, now this was interesting and a bit controversial, and I know some Marvel fans are going to get pissed off at this, but I thought it was kind of a very, very smart thing. That when Wanda touched Vision and touched the Mind Stone, that is why her powers got enhanced. It's not that she's always been this strong, because she hasn't, not in the MCU. Comic version is different, but in the MCU, she was strong, but not this strong. But when she touched the Infinity Stone, her powers got enhanced. And because of that, she's able to manipulate reality like she's doing now. And she's also sort of in a dreamlike state where she knows that this is all fake. She knows that this is all inside of a Matrix. This episode gave me Matrix Truman Show vibes. Big time, big time. So she knows that this is all reality that she created. But she likes it there because it's safe there. It's, a place that she can go and live and be away from everybody. The problem is that there are real people, real human beings who go into that sort of vortex she creates, and she sort of uses her powers to play God. She's basically playing God in that universe and like changing who they are. It's like one giant game of The Sims. That's what's going on, right? And so there are humans in there who have actual families and lives and backgrounds, and Wanda like wipes their memories and creates them and recreates them as these sitcom characters. This is all pretty damn cool. And it's all being discussed by Sword. And as the episode progressed, with the invention of email, Sword was getting involved, and Vision was becoming more and more self-aware. So also, Wanda had kids in this. I mean, she already had the kids, but they were growing up in this episode very fast. Which popped me because they're growing faster than Goten and Trunks did in Dragon Ball Super, let me tell you. And so what happened was, it seems like the kids were, even though Wanda created them, that she's gotten so powerful. And they did discuss how she almost killed Thanos, by the way. She's gotten so powerful that she can actually create life. So the children are actually created by her. Like, she was able to manifest them and give them souls and things like that. To where they apparently know how to age themselves. So they're developing powers not too different from hers. And that's a very dangerous thing, but it's also kind of cool. But it makes you wonder, like, damn, like, she's really strong. And we haven't seen this level of reality warping power in the MCU yet. In the comics, it's been there a bunch of times. But in the MCU, even when Thanos had the stones, like, he could do things in his proximity. And, of course, the snap. But we never saw Thanos actually create, like, pocket universes and create life. Although he did say he was going to do it when he had the stones in Endgame. So that was cool. And again, it's all stuff that we all theorized. I knew that was the direction they were going in, but it also thought was pretty cool. And I do like that they called her the principal victimizer because she's the one who's been kind of kidnapping people who go into the vortex and turning them into characters. What was really awesome, though, in this episode was the scene where she comes out of her vortex, out of her world, and confronts Sword. And they have the guns pointed at her, and she's pretty much saying, leave me alone. I don't mess with you, you don't mess with me. The problem is that the characters are all real people, with the exception of her kids. They're real people who she's playing with as puppets. So Wanda's kind of a victim, but she's actually kind of the villain here, you know, in a way. And even though we understand why she's doing it, because of her grief of losing her brother and losing her husband, or her boyfriend, whatever, he's her husband in the show, it's still not the right thing to do. Which Vision tries to explain to her as the series goes on, because, or as the episode went on, because Vision himself is becoming more self-aware. And we got 4 more episodes left, so I don't even know what else could even happen here. But I think this is going to be the turning point episode. I think this is the episode where people are going to really get into this show. You know, the first 3 episodes was all build up. Episode 4 was like the beginning twist of Monica Rambeau and like what's going on. This was the episode where it was like, okay, now we really sort of know, like, exactly what's going on. There's no Mephisto. I mean, he might still pop up, but there's no clues to it. Wanda's doing this, and I found it really interesting that the cliffhanger here is that Quicksilver's back to life, but it's not Aaron Taylor Johnson, the actor who played him in Ultron. She, quote, recast him as Evan Peters, which was a rumor that had been around for a while. Then we had that leak that came out last week, which I did not cover on the channel. I should have covered it, but I didn't have time. I was way too busy last week. Or this week. I've been super busy, y'all, with other stuff in the real world. I had a bunch of stuff going on. So, because of that, we now have the Quicksilver from the X-Men verse here. But it's not really him from the X-Men verse. It's not really him. It's her sort of recasting. So the question now is, how does Wanda know that he's Quicksilver in the X-Men universe? Was she shown the X-Men universe when she touched the Mind Stone? Or was that Mephisto or another sort of 4th dimensional being, 5th dimensional being even, giving her that access to know about that? That's where I'm really curious about where they go with it, because obviously it's not just some random actor she, quote, recast. It's somebody who played Quicksilver in a different movie. So what's going on here with the multiverse and Kevin Feige's grand plan that's going to factor in the other Spider-Men, Tobey Maguire. You know, now we know that's all that stuff's true. It's all true. The multiverse stuff is a reality because Evan Peters being the first crossover character, one of many probably. We may see Hugh Jackman. We may see Halle Berry. we may see these actors coming in to play their X-Men characters in one form or another. It might not be the way we want it or quite the same character, but based on the way they're doing it, it's really interesting. And that's going to lead to, of course, the big Spider-Man movie with all the Spider-Man, which is going to be super fan service. When you do stuff like multiverse stuff, whether it be in comics, TV shows, anime, whatever, it's always fan service, but it could tell a really interesting story, especially with the fact that Pietro, aka Quicksilver, is being played by the X-Men version, which, to be honest, I love how in those movies, the scenes where he would do the speed, like the fast stuff and everything was slow, was always the coolest stuff about those movies. I love that scene. So, that's a great cliffhanger. I think people who watch these films are going to get really excited about what's going on. I'm really excited, and I cannot wait till next week because, damn, a lot of stuff we thought was going to happen. What's going to happen when Vision actually does turn on Wanda and makes her snap out of it? How will Doctor Strange factor in? I do think that Doctor Strange will appear in the last episode. I'm telling y'all right now in this review, Doctor Strange will appear in the final episode of WandaVision as a cliffhanger leading into his movie and, of course, the Spider-Man movie. Doctor Strange and Wanda, I think, will be the connective tissue of this saga. Sort of like how Tony kind of was before. I think it'll be Strange and Wanda making cameos in other films and leading to other characters coming in from other universes. That's what I'm seeing it. So, very exciting stuff. I do commend Kevin Feige big time for the way he's been putting this together and all the people behind the MCU. It's totally fantastic. The fans are in for a big treat. And I can't remember in the past ever having a franchise quite like the MCU. I love Marvel. I love a lot of the DC movies, of course. Not all of them. I love sort of how they do things like this. But this is the first time I can remember a franchise really pulling something off like this. It's really executed well. And I think Kevin Feige is going to be a Hall of Fame producer for years to come. Long after he has passed away, he will be remembered as somebody who really changed the way that we see movies and television for doing stuff like this. It's been done before, right? Like multiverse crossover stuff, but not quite to this degree, to this level of execution, And I'm just really, really in awe. This is stuff that all of us as fans would have loved to have seen, but could never see. And we may actually see it with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Anyways, great episode. Best one yet. You had the sitcom and the real stuff balanced out now. I loved it. Thumbs up. What did you think? Let me know. If you didn't like this episode, I want to know why, because what was there not to like, dude? It was just great. Thanks again. Have a great day, and we'll talk a lot more about this very, very soon. But this is crazy, crazy stuff.